Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Journey with Me podcast, where the journey is greater than the destination. I, of course, am your host, Holly Harris, your journey girl, helping you to manage the middle. And for those of you who may be new to the podcast, it is just as the slogan says, we are a podcast that's aim and focus is to help you manage the middle, the in between, is to help you manage those difficult seasons of your life and to also help you maintain a meaningful relationship with God through it all. And so that's what we're all about. Journey with Me is a play on words. It's not just Journey with Me, where I share my wisdom from my own journey, but in the past, I've also had people come on to share their personal journeys, the things that they've struggled through, the things that they've overcome, so that they can essentially help someone who may be dealing with the same thing. And it's definitely a segment that I want to bring back to the podcast. So if you're interested in sharing your story on the podcast, take a look at the show notes to get all of the information. All right. And with that being said, we're going to dive into today's lesson. I want to talk about something that is very familiar, something that we all deal with. And in fact, everything I talk about on this channel is something that we all go through. This is definitely something that comes up from time to time, and that is insecurities, right? We all have them, depending on the day, depending on what we're going through, depending on what we've actually had the chance to work through. There may still be some lingering insecurities. And so I wanted to talk about that today. First of all, of course, insecurity is defined as uncertainty or anxiety about oneself. It's a lack of confidence. Insecurity is a feeling of inadequacy, not being good enough, and uncertainty, of course. So I wanted to dive into this today and talk about insecurities. And I know for myself, I have had quite a few of them, that I have worked through, and some that still try to pop up from time to time because, again, it's an uncertainty. Anytime you feel uncertain, it's an insecurity. Anytime you feel anxiety about yourself, you have a lack of confidence in one area, maybe you're still trying to be perfected in a certain area, well, then there may be an insecurity there associated with it, and then of course there's those feelings of inadequacy that we can sometimes have, especially when God has put us in rooms with people that we feel are further along or that know more than we do. We can feel insecure, right? And so I want to talk about that and ways to combat that or ways to navigate that feeling, right? And so the title of today's lesson is The Cure to Insecurity. Well, the best way to cure insecurity is to attach yourself to something that is more secure, is to place what is more secure on top of what is insecure, therefore making what is not secure more secure. Even when you think in the natural of how to secure something, if it's insecure, if it's not secure, you're going to bring in a stronger bonding agent. You're going to bring in, stronger rope. You're going to, whatever it is, you're going to find a way to make what is insecure more secure. And this is how we do this. This is how we cure insecurities when we're, again, navigating those spaces and those seasons in our life where we're feeling insecure. We take what is more secure and we place it on top of that insecurity, therefore making it more secure. And so this is what we're looking at today. And what I want to take a look at, the scripture I want to take a look at, rather, that is going to help us be more secure in those moments of insecurity is Psalms 139, verses 1 through 14. And it reads, O Lord, thou hast searched me and known me. Thou knowest my downsittings and my uprisings. Thou understandest my thoughts afar off. Thou compasseth my path, my lying down, and art acquainted with all of my ways. For there is not a word in my tongue, but lo, O Lord, thou knowest it altogether. Thou hast beset me behind and before, and hath laid hands upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high, I cannot attain unto it. Whither shall I go from thy spirit? Or whither shall I go from thy presence? If I ascend into the heavens, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there shall thy hand lead me, and thy right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, even the night shall be light about me. Yea, the darkness hideth not from thee, but the night shineth as the day. The darkness and the light are both alike to thee. For thou hast possessed my reins. Thou hast covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and my soul knoweth right well. Right? And so this is Psalms chapter 139, verses 1 through 14. And so I wanted to take a look at this psalm in particular because it chronicles a time in David's journey. At least according to some theologians, they believe that this particular psalm was penned close to the time First Chronicles chapter 13 verse 4 is what is felt that this psalm was either penned or introduced during this time. And this was when, again, he was in power, and he was beginning to take steps to bring the Ark of the Covenant back to Israel, right? And so this was the story, and you can go and review it on your own time, where they, instead of carrying the Ark, they decide to put it on a cart. And in doing so, the cart almost falls over, and Uzzah touches his hand out to stop it from falling, and he dies instantly because, of course, you're not supposed to touch the Ark of the Covenant. And so he ends up dying because of it. And of course, David is wrought because of what has taken place. But prior to that happening, he gathers the people together. He begins to declare over the people what must be done, and what they need to do. And so the people agree. They come together as one, and they're like, hey, yeah, we're going to do as you have said. We're going to do as the Lord has said. And so around that time, around that verse 4 is where they're saying that this psalm was introduced. Okay. And so this kind of gives us insight into David's mindset, into what he could have been experiencing at that moment, his own feelings of inadequacy, his own feelings of, okay, trying to get things back together again. And so he's trying to bring everything back to its proper place. And but the first thing they needed to start with was the presence of God, was the Ark of the Covenant. They needed to get that back in its proper place in order to move forward. And so again, he gathers the people together, and they're about to embark on this task. And that's when they're saying that this psalm could have been introduced at that time. Okay. And so let's look at verse 1, right? It says, O Lord, thou hast searched me and known me. So in this particular verse, this is something that we can use to be reminded that, hey, God has searched me and he knows me, right? So maybe in this particular part of the text, he's like, okay, I've been given this task, but God, he knows who I am. He searched me. And so he has found, first of all, that I'm qualified to be here, that I'm qualified to be doing what I am doing. But it also shows that, hey, that in spite of who I am, he still loves me. In spite of what he knows about me, he still loves me. When I'm feeling misunderstood, when I'm feeling out of sorts, when I'm feeling as if I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm just walking this thing out blindly. He knows me. He has searched me, and not only that, in this knowing, in this searching, it shows that he's invested in me. He has a vested interest in me, right? And so when we look at the word searched me in the text, it is to properly penetrate, hence to examine intimately, to find out, to make, to search out, to seek out, to try, right? And so in this moment, David is taking on this task. It basically insinuates, hey, that God has searched me, he has known me, therefore I am prepared for this. And so when we're feeling those moments of insecurity where, first of all, we feel misunderstood, he has searched me and he knows me, right? So even if I am being misunderstood by those around me, I know who knows me. And in that, there is security. In the fact that God knows me and he still loves me, there is security, right? And so, and then again, secondly, he's invested in me. He took the time to search me. He took the time to know me because guess what? He's invested. There is a vested interest. He has taken the time to intimately get to know me, and therefore he has prepared me for where I am today. I know a lot of times we can feel that insecurity. We can feel what they call imposter syndrome because we feel like we're in rooms or we're in spaces or we're around people where oh my God, how did I get here? What's it, this, that, or the third? Am I prepared for this? But here we know that God has done the searching. He's done. And if he's put you in a certain place, if he's putting you in a certain position, then guess what? You are prepared for it. All right. And again, and also when you're in those spaces where maybe you are in leadership or maybe you're just, in a relationship and you feel misunderstood, just knowing the fact that God, he knows me, he has searched me, can make us feel understood in those moments when we feel that insecurity, right? And then verse 2, it says, thou knowest my down sittings and my uprisings. Thou understandest my thoughts afar off. Thou compasseth my path and my lying down, and art acquainted with all my ways, right? So this is, again, going back to him knowing me and still loving me. He's acquainted with all my ways. He knows me. He understands me in essence. He sees me, right? Sometimes, our insecurities can pop up because we don't feel seen. We don't feel heard. We don't feel understood, right? But we have a God who's well acquainted with our ways. He understands us and he sees us. And in those moments where we feel insecure about that, about being seen, we know we have a God who sees us. And so when we take the weakness of that insecurity and we attach it to the security of the fact that the God of the very universe understands us and sees us, then what else is there? Like that is that is the strongest bonding agent that can make your insecurities turn into securities, okay, is the fact that he is the strongest bonding agent when we are feeling insecure, and we can use his word to essentially bind to those insecurities to make us more secure. Okay, and then let's go to verse 3, right? I read that, but I wanted to specifically pick out the word compassive, right? That word compassive in the passage means to diffuse, to winnow, to cast away, to compass, to disperse, to fan, to scatter away, to spread, to strew, right? And to winnow is basically a process of blowing a current of air through grain in order to remove the chaff. Okay, and so it's interesting that the word compass is used because essentially, when we look at the word winnow, it's getting rid, it's finding and identifying the valuable part of something. It's getting rid of what is invaluable and it's leaving what is valuable. So essentially, this is what God is doing with our paths. It's saying, thou compasseth my path and my lying down. So, what God does with our path, what He does with our history, what He does with our stories, even our mistakes, is He takes what is valuable. He finds and identifies within that experience, within that circumstance, what is most valuable, and He disposes of what isn't valuable. And so we can feel secure in knowing that regardless of the mistakes that we've made, many of the times, we go through life and we're feeling like, oh, I missed it, I messed it up, it's over for me, I made this mistake, and so therefore I'm not worthy to whatever. Right? But this is saying, hey, God uses even our mistakes to make us better, right? He uses our mistakes to make us better, and he removes what isn't useful and He keeps what's valuable to make us better, to make us more fit to be who He's called us to be. So we can take comfort in knowing when we're feeling insecure, in moments when we feel as though it's all over for me or I've just made one too many mistakes, that God is literally compassing our past. He's literally taking what we've done, what we've been through. He's removing what is no longer valuable. He's blowing on it with a puff of air in order to remove, oh my God, in the wind of God, okay? He is blowing on our lives so that He can remove what is not useful and keep what is valuable. So yeah, that was good to me when I read the definition of winnow, because it gave me a picture of what God is doing to our lives and how He is literally separating the wheat from the tare. I know a lot of times we think of that in terms of Him removing people from our lives or removing those in the faith that are not really of the faith. But in essence, we can apply that to our lives as it relates to Him removing those things from our path and those things out of our way that don't mean us any good, but He's still keeping what's valuable in order to make us a better vessel, right? Okay, so going to verse 5, it says, Thou hast beset me behind and before, and laid thine hand upon me, right? And so when I look up the definition for beset in that passage, some of the words that were used was to bind up, to cast, to fashion, to fortify, to enclose, to lay siege, right? So literally, God has fortified us, not just behind us, but before us. So we can know that our future is secure, right? A couple of other words that were used were to confine, to secure. So literally, God has encapsulated us so that whatever is behind us or before us is not going to essentially disrupt us from being able to move in the path in which He has laid for us, right? And so we can, when we feeling insecure about that, about our past, about our future, about what's happened behind us, we can know that we are encapsulated. We are encapsulated. We are secure. We are fortified, in the midst of our journey. And so that's awesome to know, that He has beset me behind and before. So everything that is behind me, everything that is before me has been fashioned, is secure. I am secure here in the middle as I'm walking on my journey because He has beset me before and behind. And so there is a security, there is an encapsulation that happens so that I could just keep walking on my journey because He has already fortified both my beginning and my ending. Okay. And so then it goes on to say, and thou hast laid thy hand upon me. So many times we find ourselves in spaces and in places in our lives where we just feel like, okay, God, where are you? But to be reminded that God has his hands on us brings back a level of security that is unmatched, okay? Because we know as long as he is with us, that's all that matters. As long as we are secure in the fact that he has his hands on us no matter where we end up. That's all we need to know to make us secure in the moment. And let's move to verses 7 through 10. It says, whither shall I go from thy spirit? Or whither shall I flee from thy presence? If I ascend up into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there shall thy hand lead me, and thy right hand shall hold me. Right? And so we see from these verses of scripture that God, he leads us, right? You know, the word of God talks about in, I believe, Psalms 23, he leads us in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. You know, he's there regardless of where we are. It talks about if I make my bed in heaven or hell, right? He's there with us regardless of where we are. And it also shows that he will never leave us regardless of where we are. Now, that's not a license to continue to make our bed in hell, but it is to say that God is there as soon as we decide that, okay, I'm done with this. He's there. He's ready to receive us with open arms. So how secure is that? How secure is knowing that you have a loving father that is there for you no matter what? That regardless of how many people walk out of your life, how many people are there for you or not there for you, you have a God who is always with you, that will never leave you nor forsake you, that is with you regardless of where you are, right? That leads you. Okay, that's if you allow yourself to be led by him. Let me put that caveat in there because, you know, some of us are not being led by him. We're being led by ourselves. But yeah, let's move on. Verse 11 and 12 reads, if I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, even the night shall be light about me. Yea, the darkness hideth not from thee, but the night shineth as the day. The darkness and the light are both alike to thee. So this is basically saying that you're sovereign, you're in control. Even the very darkness is light to you, right? Because of who you are. You created them. You created the light. You created the darkness. So to you, they are alike. They're the same. And because of that, you know, when I'm in darkness, you know, your right hand allows it to be light for me, right? When I'm in my night season, you allow those things to work together for the good, right? So that brings security, you know, when we are in seasons where we're like, oh God, okay, it's really dark right now. You know, God is able to make it light because because when we understand that he's sovereign and regardless of what's going on, it's going to be all right. And that brings a security in those insecure moments. And then finally, verse 13 says, for thou hast compassed my reins, thou hast covered me in my mother's womb. So how secure is it to understand that you're covered by God? Even from your birth, even from your mother's womb, he has covered you. Okay, so that brings a level of security in those insecure moments that can't be matched, right? And then 14, because of all this, because I know this, because I know you know me, because you know, you allow my night seasons to be light, you know, because you have your hands on me, because you have beset me behind and before, and you've done all of these things. He says, hey, I will praise you. For I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and my soul knoweth right well. So that's a point of praise, right? when we know that we have been fearfully, we have been carefully and wonderfully made. God has searched me. He has known me. He knows my uprisings. He knows my down sittings. He understands my thoughts from afar off. He covered me in my mother's womb. He's there for me, whether I make my bed in heaven or make my bed in hell, right? He has his hands on me. Because of that, I will praise you, because you have fearfully and wonderfully made me. You have caused these night seasons to work together for good. You have taken my path and you've blown on it, and you've blown away the chafe parts, the parts that were no good, and you have left what is valuable and you have added it to my being. You've done all of this, right? Because this is a part of your fearful and wonderful making of me, right? And marvelous are your works. You've done something marvelous with me. You've done something marvelous with my life. You've done something marvelous with this world when you created it, right? And because I see your works and I see how marvelous they are, and how marvelous you have made me, it's not all about me, but it's because of you. You've created this marvelous work out of this insecure blob. You have created this marvelous work, right? And so my soul knows it right well, because I know what you've done with me. I know how you've changed my life. I know that in spite of me, you've put me in this great position, and you have caused me to be in this space and place where I'm now charged with bringing your presence back to your people. Right? And so an amazing task that you've given me. How marvelous are your works, how you created man, how you put us and inserted us into your plan, how you use us at your will, and you create this masterpiece out of our lives. Marvelous are your works. And my soul has seen it. My soul knows right well. So if that doesn't make you secure when you're feeling insecure, I don't know what will. But know that in moments of insecurity, use the word as that bonding agent to make that thing that is insecure more secure, because that's what the word of God does for us. It gives us security. It encapsulates us. It causes us to understand who God is and who we are to him. So know that God is with you. He'll never leave you nor forsake you, and that you can find your security in him. He is the cure to insecurity. God bless you.